It's a new year filled with new mutants and new shows, and Marvel TV Weekly is back. So, belated Happy New Year, and Marvel TV Weekly starts now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, that's right. We're back at a special early time for those watching live. But if you're watching the archive, it doesn't make a difference to you. But thank you for those of you joining us in the chat, watching live. I'm Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ. Welcome to Marvel TV Weekly. Joined as always by Michael Shirley. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Michael X Shirley on Twitter and Instagram.
And at the other end of the table, special guest Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. Special thanks to Sue for being here. No, our pal Kari Lane will be here eventually. It is raining in Los Angeles, and if you have never been to Los Angeles when it rains, all of a sudden your expected time of arrival goes from 20 minutes to like 2 hours, give or take. I came in from Beverly Hills and just made it instead of getting here the hour early that I thought I would. So, anyway, nobody cares. But here we are, and we have a couple of very exciting, or at least as far as Michael's concerned, at least one very exciting season finale coming our way. We're going to talk about both Inhumans and The Gifted, each of which have their season finale coming up.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm really excited for The Gifted.
You're excited for The Gifted finale because you can't wait till it's over. But
we'll get into that.
What we now know since the last episode of Marvel TV Weekly, Gifted renewed for season 2. I know Michael sent a text of there's an old pollution commercial of a Native American who sheds a tear when he sees litter. So it was basically a picture of Michael with just one tear. He just can't believe this. No, but we'll talk about that show. And I read that Runaways would be back for a second season, but I feel like how could it not, you know? Because our friend Ryan Sands needs to come back for the second season.
Sure.
That's really what it comes down to. So we'll dive into those shows. But the little bit of news that we got in addition to those is we don't have a premiere date for Legion, but we know it'll be on in April. And we also know that we will see the face of the Shadow King in season 2. It will not just be Aubrey Plaza. An actor named Naveed Nagabran will play Amal Farouk, who is indeed the Shadow King, and not Lenny, who is Aubrey Plaza's character. So, I don't know about you, Michael, but for me, Legion, I have to always quantify everything. Legion is my favorite non-Netflix Marvel show. For just visually, it was so cool. It was so interesting, and just the mind-bending aspect they're able to do with it because of the nature of Legion's powers. And you know, they do a good job of kind of doling out the information of his backstory. Because believe it or not, my wife did not pick up. We watched every episode. She didn't pick up on his parental parentage, whatever that word is, who his father is.
Isn't that just for like a second in the episode?
There's just
the very first episode we see a wheelchair.
The wheelchair with the X, but that's it. And I don't think she made the connection, so she doesn't know. Yeah. And I think a lot of people maybe don't know. And if I spoiled it for you, I haven't entirely spoiled it for you. There's a lot of people in wheelchairs. But I wanted to know, Michael, before we dive into these other shows, your thoughts on Legion. Are you excited to see where the story goes from here?
Yeah. I was telling you before the show started that I caught up and I watched Legion because I had mentioned a while back that and Agent Carter were one of the two Marvel shows that I hadn't seen in full, and I'd started Legion and it was just too heady for me. I was like, whoa, I've got to be like in the right mind and place. I was thinking, you know, it was something I just sit down and watch, but it was something you really had to pay attention to.
And that was the problem, because my wife and I, we would watch it in real time on FX at 10 p.m., but we have, a now 2-year-old son, so we couldn't stay awake. And it's not because we didn't like it, but so that's the show that if you fall asleep during it, you really get lost. So we'd always have to rewind and be like, what happened?
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know if I love all of the supporting characters.
Sure.
But I do love the way it looks visually. The cinematography is really nice. Big fan of that. Really excited to see what comes.
Dan Stevens as David, and I like sort of the weird relationship with him and Sid Barrett. Interesting name, of course. But the interesting thing about that show, you never really know is what you're watching. Did it actually happen? Or was, and I think that they maybe went a little too far with some of the mind bend stuff. That the whole thing, you're like, is this really happening right now, or is this?
Yeah, I think that kind of makes for a fun for the writers because
Yeah.
they can kind of do whatever they want when
Yeah.
you've got something like that going on.
So,
but I loved Aubrey Plaza.
yeah,
Like,
I
oh my
actually
gosh,
expected
that was
the way that the
great.
season ended. I just expected she wouldn't be back. So I was glad to see the end of season 1 that there she is. So yeah, I think that it's funny because you'd think that like Parks and Rec was the perfect character for her, but I think maybe we
No,
found an even more perfect one
She
for her.
did such a great job. I don't feel like she got any recognition for it, but she did like really good.
Yeah, and I mean, and this is Noah Hawley who did Fargo as well, and I mean, those are two of my favorite shows.
Didn't that get snubbed last night?
Well, Ewan McGregor
You're
won,
saying?
so you know,
Okay.
yeah, and I think he only won because he played 2 characters. It was
Right,
like, he worked
right,
twice as
right.
hard. But yeah, so and I don't know. I think that it's nice to see when you get that caliber of talent brought to these comic book shows. You know, I mean, obviously a completely different world, but the fact that Josh Schwartz is involved in Runaways, you know, it at least brings some like, okay, this is somebody that knows how to tell stories with this age group and hopefully for this age group. So,
well, I'd read that Noah Hawley was originally planning for that to be played by a man, and then he
Yes.
just randomly met her somewhere and was like, "Oh my gosh, you're a Lenny."
yeah, you're definitely Lenny.
And that they kept all the dialogue the same, so they didn't change like pronouns, you know.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize they were that because I had heard
Yeah.
something of that, but I didn't realize that they were that far in the process.
You
at that point.
notice that she's kind of like, if you listen to her words, you would assume she's like a bisexual person, but it's just written.
That's really
it's
interesting.
It's a man's dialogue.
Oh. Well, we'll get to see more of that sometime in April. But between now and then, after next week, the only game in town is going to be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Ah, I'm
So,
loving it.
I know, and I still have to catch up. And
I
we
know.
were talking before the show. I should have just started with this season and not caught up on the 14 episodes I have from last season. I should have just dove in. So now I've just really put myself in a hole, and I don't know. I have like 20 episodes to watch. Basically, an entire season's worth all of a
That's
sudden.
what you get for
Having,
procreating.
yeah, having kids and having to pay attention to them and stuff. But it's a lot easier to keep up on Runaways and The Gifted.
I was starting to get actually a little irritated with Runaways until
Really?
last week.
So
the
episode
2
9.
episodes before
Yeah.
last week, I was like, it was just getting kind of like,
Yeah, I think that one of the interesting things and sort of the way that we're going to go through Runaways as we transition is that we haven't been on this show, Marvel TV Weekly, in a few weeks. So we could break down each episode individually, but I just sort of wanted to do it by character, what they've
Right.
been up to the last few weeks. But sort of overall, I agree with you. There's definitely some minor feelings of inconsistency, especially when it comes to Chase's dad, Victor. Just, it's like, all right, you kind of explained it away with the brain tumor. Okay, Jonah with the healing, but it's just, that character is so inconsistent. And
for me, they drop a lot of bombs,
Yeah.
and then they leave them,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what about that? What about that? And I get
What
it's
are a
probably
couple that just
all-
one or two that come to mind that like, annoyed
like
you?
the
that-
old photo of Julian McMahon
Mm-hmm.
with Carolina's mother as like a 6-year-old child.
I think she was like in 8th
graduating.
grade. I think
Or,
that
you
was
know,
like, you know, that
Yeah,
that,
so
that
the-
was in like the Roy Moore sweet spot of, you know, middle school girls.
well, they're trying to, you know, make you infer or whatever that
Right.
was his daughter too. So there's like this whole incest.
Well, and that's sort of what
thing.
we were talking about the last show that we did. We were talking about that there was a real incest vibe from who we now
Yeah,
know
and
as
they've like
Jonah.
kind of gone
They
away from that
definitely,
completely.
and I just wonder, you know, did Hulu get a little? I don't
No.
think so, but I felt like we were getting a sort of an interesting story, and then that's why the whole thing of like, you know, when he says, "I can't wait to meet Carolina and meet his daughter," that's why we see, you know, the mom like start to cry because she doesn't want him to get close to the daughter. So I thought that we were going to sort of get this, and we still might. You know, they haven't really explored it. I mean, we only have one episode left, which is tomorrow night or
the
tonight
thing
at
with
midnight.
Gert and Chase, that was like just so like
Like
what?
real, like now?
No,
really?
it wasn't. For me, it was more like I wouldn't have thought that they had sex or whatever unless she was so obvious about wanting you know, that character wanting the audience to know that they had just had
Yeah,
I just thought they were messing around or whatever. And then I was like, well, gosh.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. But then I was like, well, I guess they probably felt like they needed to make it clear in that episode that it's like, no, that's what happened.
But
well,
there was no real, I mean, there's a little chemistry between them, but it was a little just too much like, boom.
there's not a lot of chemistry with Chase in
And
general.
anyone.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
His mom. I mean, his dad.
He likes his
obviously-
dad.
He likes his dad, which he shouldn't.
I
You
know.
know, I mean, it's like, oh, we're gonna work on these gloves together, but then his dad's a jerk. You know, and so
Spike.
let's start with Chase's family, since that's where we are. The Steins. And you know, Victor gets angry and he's gonna kill Chase. Is really what we see at the end of episode 8. And of course, you know, Mom comes in and shoots him. Janet shoots. And I can't believe that's her name. I looked down and I'm like, yeah, that is her name. And you know, it's like, all right, sure, she saves her son. And
Yeah,
there
they're
is-
all like, screw you.
Yeah, but then
like, they all want her to like
yeah,
die.
so it's like, all right, well, you have to die for it. It's like none of the rest of you would have done that, and it's a great point. Like, like Tina wouldn't have shot Robert in that
Yeah.
moment if it
Yeah,
meant
yeah,
that
yeah.
keeping her kid alive. So you know, I think that was sort of an interesting thing. The little bit of the sort of almost trying to play hot potato with who needed to die. You know, it's like and
yeah,
and,
they all kind of closed ranks on her.
yeah, and you know, I mean, they basically even threw Dale in there. It's like, well, what does Dale do? You know, both Dale and Stacey are like, hey, we work together, we're really important. And it was just sort of an interesting thing, you know, because
They don't
it's like,
really care about each other at all.
no, I mean, that is not what the Pride is all about.
No.
They don't particularly care about each other, and in some cases don't really care about their spouses, you know, but much less care about the group as a whole.
I was hoping by now we might have had clarified kind of the differences from the comic book a little bit more. Because as we all know, Carolina's family are supposed to be aliens. So we kind of get that vibe.
Yeah.
But then we get like Molly, whose parents are supposed to be mutants. And then we find out, you know, they found this rock. So it's like they weren't mutants. They're just archaeologists. You know, it's just, there are a lot of differences from the comic book that I would like to be addressed. Like, so that I know where the story's going. Like, it's fine if you want to change some things, but I just want to know.
Yeah, I think to actually
Like,
you know,
within the first season, I want to know who is what. Like, are they time travelers or are they not? You know? Because
I think that there's a lot of things that could be spelled out, and I feel like, you know, tonight's season finale is really just going to ask more questions than it's going to answer. But I do think that, you know, and by the way, in the chat, Jay Snowden actually really liked the thing we're talking about, where everyone in Pride was trying to figure out who needed to die to save Victor's life.
I'm surprised that they didn't just throw that husband in there, Kip Pardue.
Yeah, but I think that you know, I think that there's just
That
there's
husband.
just that husband, Mr. Dean. That there's just too much. I guess there's too much
He's too
involvement.
famous
Yeah,
or
well, I mean, it's
something?
not that he's famous. It's just I think Leslie's the wife's name. I
But
think
he's
that
supposed to be like a Tom Cruise type, or
right, but at
whatever.
the same time, there have been allusions to the fact that he was a part of Pride at some point, and they've used some kind of drug to make him forget. Because there's been references to him being a part of it again, and he's like, "What are you talking about? I've never done this before," you know, and just a lot of dumb questions. But he's obviously a lot more involved than I thought he was going to be. You know, these last couple episodes.
I thought they were going to kill him off real quick.
Well, and I think that's probably what we're supposed to expect. I didn't expect him and Jonah to be like teaming up on like a, you know, a buddy comedy, like, you know, cross country drive trip or something. But
I
yeah,
want to know more about the origins of the family. I want to know where everyone's from before this season's over.
I don't know if we're gonna get that. Maybe
I'm
maybe
kind
we'll
of-
get a couple of them. you know?
Right. I'm kind of feeling like everything's a little more like Earth-based.
Yeah,
I'm
I
kinda
think they might be
thinking, like,
going for that.
Carolina's parents are probably the only ones that are actually kind of out there.
Yeah, but
Everyone else
I
is
think
kinda
with Carolina's
normal.
family, the dynamic with her mom and Jonah is really the most interesting thing. And, you know, as we saw at the end of episode 9, even her mom, Leslie, said that she didn't know that she could glow like that. But she was afraid of.
really surprised
Yeah, I
me.
figured
Like,
the
really
whole idea that the
surprised
bracelet
me.
was her mom. Like, no, you shouldn't know that
Yeah,
you can do this.
I'm starting to think that her mom might be human.
Yeah, she could just be human with some kind of, ability that, some kind of healing ability, which it seems like Jonah has too. All these sort of things getting a little bit better spelled out one way or the other. We'll have to see. But in general, I thought. It was very confusing, sort of the way that the Stein family's dynamic was playing out. But I did like that we saw Victor see sort of the little flash from the future. There was like that. It was Chase saying like, "Don't put the gloves on," which we saw like at the end of the episode. It's like, I think that's probably what it means. That's probably where it all went to shit. And now materializing in front of us, Kari Lane, who can be found at Kari D Lane. Thank you for braving the damp Los Angeles traffic. But
we're like, what is this stuff coming from the sky?
Well, everybody just looks up at it because we don't know what to do with it.
And they drive so slow.
Yes, exactly. But we're glad that you're here and you made it safely, that you drove carefully, and didn't email me while you were driving, or maybe you did. But anyway, so we've really just started diving into Runaways, and the way that we're looking at it is we're sort of going through each family, because it's been about 3-4 episodes since we talked about the show. So instead of doing a play-by-play on each of the episodes. So we really started, we've talked a little bit about both Chase and Carolina, but your thoughts on the Stein family, the shooting, and we had some fun talking about how all the members of Pride were just trying to figure out who they could get rid of to bring Victor.
Right? They're like, this isn't Survivor. We're not voting for
that was very funny, by the way. Yeah, that was Dale,
very good contemporary. It's like right now. Sorry, I'm like, oh, these have metal on it. The Steins. Oh, wait, wasn't that the moment too? It was like, really? Was that Nico talking to her dad? She's like, really? It's Janet Stein. You're in love with her.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That was a good one too. It's like, Janet's really.
Yeah.
Their family dynamic is really interesting and complicated because the abuse is obvious and unclear at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
Because then you kind of wonder, you're like, was his behavior because of his brain tumor? Does that justify it? I totally get Chase like wanting to still bond with his dad, even though his dad tried to kill him.
Yeah.
I like that the mom's like, no, I'm going to save my child first. I don't know. I'm curious if he's going to actually still be alive or not. Did you guys say if you thought he's...
We didn't say, but
Okay.
I feel like
He probably
he's gonna
will.
pull through.
But
he'll be fine.
he seems like a semi-bigger name actor that they'll like have him for a bit, go away, and come back.
Maybe that's what
know?
it is. Yeah, they for season 2.
Maybe he's got another project.
Yeah.
Maybe
or
they've
that.
got him for like 4 episodes.
Yeah.
One of those things. But and we were also talking a little bit about Carolina's family, and I agree with Michael that we're sort of, they've sort of danced around some really interesting issues with her mom, Leslie, and Jonah, and sort of this weird like incestuous possible relationship. He's like, or is like he says, is like a friend of her dad's. It's still creepy. It's still wrong because there is the picture of her, like, I don't know, graduating from middle school or whatever that picture is, with him. So what are your thoughts sort of on the Dean family, basically?
Well, we had talked about it a little bit before, and then I think you weren't here, so I'm curious on your opinion on it. It seemed almost like when we weren't 100%, I'm pretty sure Jonah is her dad, because
I think that's even both Leslie and Jonah have said that he is her dad. Yeah.
But when he first was like talking about wanting to meet her, it almost felt incestuous.
Right. That's actually what I said, and I think that's why she
Super
wanted to keep him
creepy.
away.
Yeah.
And then that sort of fed into the notion that they had an incestuous relationship, but it's very unclear in these last few episodes.
It also kind of seems like he's like predicted her and kind of like waiting for her, because the very first episode there's like this painting of her that was done, like
well, the
a long
grandfather...
time ago, like the sparkly
But
woman.
is it her?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet.
Well, and the mom's we're talking about. Well, we don't know the finale's today, right?
Well, tonight at midnight.
We don't get to talk about it.
I know.
But because we haven't seen.
They have all kinds of future tech, so maybe they can know things about the future.
But her mom does the line where they're like, "Did you know about that?" And she pretty much was like, "I'd hoped it wasn't that."
Yeah.
And then you go, "Oh, so what does that mean?"
And one of the things that I mentioned was that there have been references made to, the dad, Mr. Dean, Frank Dean, Kip Pardue.
Oh, dude, he totally turned her in. I was disappointed.
And the notion apparently that he was part of Pride at one point, but then, sort of like, Men in
Brainwashed
Black
out.
brainwashed out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that we're gonna get to see all of that come to fruition. We'll see more of that. But it's interesting. Each episode has brought more questions. It look like, it's a couple of answers, but no, now I have like 10 more questions than I did before the episode started.
But they're like good questions. You're not just tuned out because you don't care. We want
I
to know.
just want to know about the background of all the families, like where they're from. I want to
we'll
know
probably
that
get
before
that
the
as
first
it
I
goes
don't think
on.
we're gonna get it.
Not now. Not yet.
Because the season finale, we got one more episode,
Yeah.
so I don't think we're gonna get all of it right away. But I think we'll start to get some answers.
We finally got a little bit more on Molly's parents.
Yeah, I think that was interesting to
What
finally
is
get to see
this?
that. Yeah,
The
that was
VHS.
actually great that she had no
It's like,
idea what the VHS was. That was a great way to.
Oh, an AV club.
Yeah, and then the shout out to how the AV Club is, of course, the example of the worst club in every teen movie.
I like that's on Stranger Things though. They're part of AV Club.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
well
they're
that's
pretty
well.
proud of
Look at
it.
yeah, that's true. Those kids are very proud of it.
that show.
Stranger Things just can't stay out of Marvel TV Weekly. But so I thought that was very funny. But we actually did get to see, and there was a very informative flashback of Molly when she was little and the
Yes.
glowing rocks and all of that. And
So did she get her powers from the rocks?
that's what my takeaway was, and that's why she's the only thing that survived that whole lab exploding.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Then she should be napping, but then it would be unclear, and you might think she was dead.
Yeah, I think that maybe she was stronger when she was 3. She
True.
just didn't, turn.
How's a rock gonna make you a mutant though? That's kind
I
of.
mean,
Well,
is it,
it's
is
alive
it, is
in
it
a
the
way.
Inhumans built entirely around that, basically, like the Terrigenesis rocks and things like
Yeah,
that? I mean,
yep.
this isn't exactly the same. So it doesn't make you a mutant, but the Fantastic Four were bombarded by cosmic rays, Bruce
I don't
Banner
know.
and gamma rays.
We don't know what that rock material
Yeah,
really
what's
is.
inside of it.
Why
I
is
think
it
that has
glowing?
something
Why
to
does
do-
it move?
Yeah, that's true. So it's a great question, but I feel like it's entirely possible that
She's probably not a mutant. It's probably just something else.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
Because of the differences in the comic books, I just kind of want to know where everyone's from and like
True.
what their deal is, just so that I can,
Well, wait.
I don't
then
know, like store it away in my brain. and
is
find out.
anyone technically a mutant in the group then?
Yeah, Molly's supposed to be.
Molly's-
Both her parents were supposed
But
to
I
be.
mean,
and,
via
and
this show-
Carolina, I would say, is
Carolina was
But
supposed to be an alien, and that
If
was
she's
like,
the child of Jonah,
Yeah.
right?
right. I guess.
he an alien?
And by
Gert's
the way,
parents
makes
were
sense.
time travelers.
as much as I love Alex, so his superpower is that he's good at computers. Okay, great. That's not. You really bring a lot to the table.
Nico's parents were wizards.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, which they kind of like make it, with the name
The
of their
wizards.
company
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
wizards.
Way,
Yeah,
way
like,
to go
I
under
get
the
that.
radar.
Yeah, I just
We're the
want to know
wizards.
how everything's laid out because I'm like, I keep looking at those Gert's parents. I'm like, are these time travelers? Because they're so dopey. Like
They're
they don't-
very dopey.
Like,
They're
like for
adorable, though.
Yeah.
Adorkables because they're adorable. And
like
they're
no wonder
adorable.
they're stuck in this time. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I just want to know.
And since we're talking about the Yorks family, what do you think? I'll start with you, Carrie, about Gert's story arc the last few episodes. I mean, she's got her trusty dinosaur, which is great.
I want more with the dinosaur.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting teased
They're like,
a lot.
let's leave it in the car.
Yeah.
Why?
And then of course the joke
You
about
brought it.
you have to leave the window open because it's LA.
Yeah.
And so that was
That
very
was
funny.
cute.
There's a lot of cute moments in the show. It's actually a lot funnier than.
Let's
than I
call
think I
ourselves
expected.
the Runaways.
Yeah, it's like no, it's too depressing. And Nico's like, yeah, even for me.
Well, because they're like, yeah, of all the kids who ran away and died, or
Yeah.
they died.
I mean, it is super depressing.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend it isn't. But anyway, sorry. I answered the question I
Yeah.
asked you. So what
No,
did you think about what Gert's been up to?
I do like Gert's arc, and I like how she and Carolina have had their standoffs, and in good ways. Of, well, you're not expressing your emotions. Well, neither are you. Good point, ladies. It's like, I'm glad you are saying those things out loud. But then she has a moment with Chase where they're like, so was that like a one-time thing? Guys, just say what you're thinking and stop assuming.
No, I mean they're teenagers. You never say what you're thinking.
No, but she seems like that person who would.
But she's just super awkward and doesn't know how to interact.
Though
with it.
she can handle herself with older men, because
Yeah.
when she's with
Oh, yeah.
security dudes, she was totally fine.
Yeah.
And they were totally into her, which you're like, oh, this goes almost creepy because they go, wait, how old are you?
When I like that she addressed
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And by the way, I love that Star Wars video game that's in there. Just to,
And that was fun too. And
But
I'm surprised they didn't have an X-Men video game in there.
That's true.
I was just a little surprised.
It's all
that they
Disney,
picked Star.
so,
I
yeah,
know,
they
but
all own
still.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Carrie, were you surprised that her and Chase found time to have sex at the dance?
Well, I cheered for them and I cheered for Carolina and
Yeah,
Nico.
I want to talk
was
about
like,
that
yes!
next. I want to talk about that next. Yeah.
Well, it was one of those moments where it made sense that their relationship develops and then they're finally because her and Chase kind of said it where she's like, I felt ignored by you. And then he goes, well, I wasn't ignoring you. Or, they finally are talking it out where you're like, oh, thank you. But it's more not that they found time, but okay, we're on a super important mission. Hey, you want to have sex? Like,
Which
it's like
I
any
have to
horror
say,
movie.
if when I was in high school, if I had been on a super important mission and somebody had asked me, it's like, oh yeah, the mission's not that important. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
But that's every single horror movie as
Yeah.
well. It's like, we're going to die. So you want to have sex. But they do point out that they're like, well, if this is our last night, then I'm like, well, then they should. Because she
Yeah.
goes, if this is our last night, I want one dance.
Right, exactly.
Got
And
more
by
than
one
a dance,
yeah,
yes.
exactly.
The vertical dance?
Presumably, we don't know. But they're kids, so should we not?
I hope
Yeah.
they wore protection.
What if Gert didn't? She's so outspoken on all that. Yeah.
Well, that also
But
as
they
a
also think they might die, so they're like, yeah, it's fine.
As a show, though, I like how they did kind of treat teen sex in terms of they show it, but not like it wasn't gratuitous. And
Yeah.
you get it. And it is we're hormonal teens, and they kind of have the awkward talk after.
Yeah.
So it felt very real instead of it feeling artificial. Yay, teen sex storyline.
I was very surprised. By the way, Jay Snowden in the chat says the love interests in the show don't really work for him. I did not see the Carolina and Nico storyline coming. Even
Oh, you didn't know?
Even the first time when they were together. No. They were just.
when they have their getting ready party?
Yeah, and then and I was like, oh, is that what that was? I'm just an idiot. But I was like, well, this is kind of a fun wrinkle to the storyline. It's like because it's like it's not really a love triangle with Chase and Gert and Carolina. Because Carolina's like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not in the love triangle.
Well.
Wow.
Did you know already from the very beginning?
Oh, I just knew from the comic book.
Right.
It's
Okay.
like that in the comic
But I was
books.
I don't know, I was excited and because I don't know if it's because it's Hulu that they weren't squeamish about it. They actually had them kiss, and,
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna work out for him.
I don't think it's gonna work out for them, of course not. But I was just like, well, that's nice. And we're not really sure how Nico feels about it. She's just like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess.
I think she's super into dude.
I mean, come on, because
She kissed her back.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But do you think she's just really into Alex and she's just
Yeah.
mad at him? Yeah,
Yes, but
look,
see, we haven't explored if Nico's bi or because Carolina's like, okay, we get it. Like her thing with Chase, you go, oh, that's why it was awkward. She's just really not into him,
into
and then that
dudes,
makes
yeah.
sense. I totally buy the Carolina to Nico, but I'm more curious where Nico stands on all this.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because she had, it obviously all happened so fast. She hasn't addressed it for the course of the audience. But I was glad they had their little moment.
And at least it is one of those like, oh, that is testing the water a little fast of if you don't know if someone likes you back. But she does the line, well, if we're gonna die tonight, I want to make sure I did that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely, and it makes sense. And look,
I'm rooting for them. I like
me
them.
too.
even
so
if
much.
Nico is really just so hung up on Alex, she's probably like, I mean, look, Carolina's hot. I don't know how well the actress is, so maybe that's creepy that I said it, but I feel like it's all right to address the fact she's a very pretty girl. So she's like, I'm just gonna go with it, I mean, why
She
not?
almost took her bracelet off. Did you want to take it off to see if I glow?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, that's true. That old small talk. So I find, all of these different dynamics to be interesting. And I like the story we got of Molly kind of investigating, the parents. And I don't know that train stations have lockers anymore. I'm sorry. Stuff like that just bother me. because
No, that one, yes.
you sure about that a commuter
And a
rail in
bigger one.
Montebello?
Like, yeah, maybe at like
mean,
Union Station where it's a
maybe,
bigger
but
one.
I mean,
yes.
that's like...
Stop, you
They
guys.
don't do that because you can
Stupid.
put bombs in there. That's why they don't have them anymore.
I just thought it was dumb that she's like, what is this key thing? I'm like, duh, it's a locker. Haven't you watched any movies or TV shows?
Well, not on VHS, apparently.
Right? That's who you're like, that's like the stupid commercial where the girl's like, what's a computer?
Yeah. But I don't know. And
Yeah.
I think,
oh my god. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I think-
yeah.
I think
the
Molly's
iPad commercial.
Molly's really coming into her own, and I
Yeah.
think we're getting to
Well, and
see-
she's surviving out there in like does stuff. I like the Ferris Bueller's Day Off line too.
That was fun. Yeah,
I
I
didn't
like
really-
the dynamic of her and Gert. I
Yeah.
think I mean, it's very. They have a great like sisterly bond where it's a lot of times movies, TV, siblings always hate each other, but then they eventually come around for whatever reason for the sake of the story. Speaking of the Gifted, but eventually. So I like the fact that they're just like, yeah, they have a whole banter, a whole rapport, and it's nice. I like seeing them together. Molly wasn't gone for very long. It was like, welcome back. You've been gone for half an episode, but that was interesting. What were you gonna say, Michael?
Oh no, nothing.
Nothing.
I'm good.
All right, you're
Let's get on to the Gifted.
Well, we'll get on to the Gifted, but I guess we
I'm
haven't talked
excited
about
about
Alex.
it.
We haven't talked about Alex yet.
He's my least favorite.
But
he really
what about?
is.
And as mentioned in the chat, really Chase smashing his laptop. You're so strong, and you're a. Why don't you just take his laptop? And it's like, no, now I have it because I'm stronger than you, nerd.
Alex is definitely
Yeah.
my least favorite in the bunch. I'm like, why is
But
he
he has
there?
the best hair.
He's supposed to be like the genius or whatever, but it seems like
Alex?
Chase is covering that. Yeah.
Chase,
Yeah, Chase is-
Chase is smarter than I think we were led to believe.
He's
early
more
on.
tech smart.
Yeah.
He's not very
Like,
socially.
what is Alex's purpose?
He can hack the complicated server codes.
Until you break his computer.
Yeah, and he
that's
knew the
true.
Then he's
passcode.
like,
No, if he is so techie, I'm surprised. I'm like, one, you didn't put that on a backup server online. Or
Well, it wasn't downloaded, but you're right.
No, he's like, it's all done.
it's
I
all
have
done.
it all. Where is your backup
So-
file? Where's your flash drive? Cloud something.
I don't think it really will. I mean, we'll find out in the final
'Cause we
episode
don't know how long he
as
was
it went
sitting
back.
there.
But that bothered me. And also, Nico's like, well, I'm going to charge my sister's phone in her bedroom under the bed,
Yes.
where maybe somebody can find it,
That
and
was
also in the
pretty
room
dumb.
I'm not supposed to go into.
I didn't
Let's not
really-
go charge it in my room.
I didn't really catch what the point of having
Take
it in
an
that
external
room
charger.
was.
Well, I mean, because that's where it would have been. But yeah, why did she leave it there? I think just because she was still looking through the bag and she plugged it in.
No, it's dumb to leave it there. Like external
Yeah.
charger, portable chargers. She could have had it in her bag charger it with her laptop,
I mean,
something to have
I'm-
it with her.
Unless we find out that Robert, when he was in there and after Nico left, that he like looked under the bed for God knows why, but found it and like learned something from it. I mean, that's the only thing, the only thing where it would make sense story wise. But anyway, so we have one more episode of Runaways until season 2, which whenever that'll be. And it kind of, I think episode 9 ended in sort of like a great like epic showdown.
Yeah, I didn't want it to end. I wanted to see what happened.
The
yeah.
Runaways versus the Pride. And,
Oh, that was a great standoff.
I think that dinosaur is gonna be jumping
Oh,
out the
me
car
too.
soon.
that dinosaur.
I hope
I feel like
so.
that dinosaur's eating somebody. It's
Oh, please.
and
You like how all the parents flinched though when Molly's like, we're ready to fight? They're
yeah,
all like,
and they're
"Ooh."
like, "Whoa, where'd that come from?" I like the way that Tina just took the staff back from Nico. It's
Oh,
like,
she's all
Oh,
very-
you could have learned how to do this, but
Yeah,
you
that was
didn't."
good.
Yeah, and I guess we're just gonna see where it all goes, and we got to see a little bit more of Amy's backstory, but that still hasn't been entirely spelled out because
Who's the person who texted
who's the
her?
he and who's the he that's there?
It's
would
Jonah.
would you like to theorize that it's Jonah? Do you have a theory as to who it is?
I think Jonah killed her.
Michael,
I don't
who
know.
killed Amy? Because my theory, it's their dad, Robert. I think that might be why he was so quick to kill himself, because he knows that he's a terrible person. Because it's
Sacrifice himself
one-
for the woman he loves.
one of the
technically.
only people that would have had the access and the ability to do
Given
that.
everything, it seems like she probably died for like some of that Gaborum crap.
Right. Well, I
Maybe
don't know.
Carolina's mother.
It'll be
guess.
interesting
If I
to
had to
see
pick
what
somebody,
it
I'd
all
probably
is,
pick
yeah.
Carolina's mother had something to do with it.
They just had the weird flashback with Jonah in her room with her as a little kid that
Yes.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure Jonah did it.
Right,
And it's a he.
to me, that's a red herring. That we're supposed to think that it's Jonah,
Right.
because that's the
True.
obvious choice.
Yeah.
But you know what? Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's Victor. We don't know. We'll find out.
They're obviously willing to kill other people.
Yeah, right, exactly. And this is
Yeah.
they don't mess around. But I don't know. I think it's all going to come together, and I'm looking forward to the big fight. And don't forget that Jeffrey Wilder's buddy from jail is still like hanging out on the periphery, seeing what's going on.
That
Yeah, you like
Joker.
him? He's like, yeah, there's something going down.
There's something going
I
down,
wanna
and
know.
I think he's going to play a big part. He
Hopefully.
probably shouldn't, but he will. And, obviously, because that's why he's still there. I don't know. I'm excited for that. Yes, Michael, I'm very excited about the season finale 1 week from tonight
super
of The Gifted.
excited about
But
that.
before we talk about that, we are here. We always talk about Marvel TV, but that doesn't mean we don't just like all superhero TV. And we want to let everybody know that on January 16th, when the CW's newest superhero suits up, lightning's going to strike. Don't miss the electrifying new series Black Lightning. Black Lightning, aka Jefferson Pierce, had previously powered down his crime-fighting career and for the last 9 years had been saving lives the best way he knew how as principal of the local high school. But in this city, when the hero's away, the gangs will play. And this dude's a family man, so when his people get caught in the crosshairs, it's time to take charge. Now the former hero is back in full force for a second round against corruption and violence, because lightning does strike twice. It's dark days for the city of Freeland, but the storm is coming when Black Lightning brings his power to the people. Not only will the series Black Lightning spark you up, but also the soundtrack is full of slam and hip-hop cuts from the likes of Rome Fortune and old school hits from blues singer Nina Simone, Bobby Bland, and the great Isaac Hayes. On January 16th, the world will know Black Lightning. Series premiere after The Flash, only on the CW, so that's something to look forward to. Not a show that we will cover here on Marvel TV Weekly, but there'll be a Black Lightning panel here at AfterBuzz, and also, I believe, the DC Movie News on Popcorn Talk. They also talk about the TV shows too.
Trailer looked cool.
Roxy does that. Yeah, and I think that's going to be great. And of course, they mentioned on the soundtrack Isaac Hayes, also known as Chef from South Park. So you see. I mean, I am one of the hosts of South Park
Working
Weekly,
in your other after show.
I always try and get them all in here, get them all in on one show. But anyway, so that's something to be excited for. But I have to say, catching up on The Gifted the last couple weeks, I was really enjoying it because they started to at least begin to weave in a little bit more of the Marvel superhero
Universe,
the X-Men universe.
like the
We're talking
actual-
the Hellfire Club. The references made that the triplets have the last name Frost, in some way related to Emma Frost, who, assuming this is the same continuity as the movies, died
say
in
it's
X-Men
her
First
mom.
Class. Yeah, so that would make sense. But I like those characters anyway, whether there's a connection or not. But you don't. It's like how their last name is Strucker. You don't do it by accident that their last name is Strucker and that the triplets' last name are Frost.
She
And
does look a little bit like,
January Jones.
well, just
Like
the
Emma
comic
Frost.
depiction
Especially
of
the
Emma
haircut.
Frost.
They all
Yeah.
have the Emma Frost haircut. And, when that character was first introduced, I was like, she's really annoying. She's so lame. What's her... But
Esme.
you always knew Esme was up to something.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was way more interesting than I thought it was.
Oh, the mind control took that power to a whole other level.
Yeah.
Like the power, like superpower of suggestion.
When she's getting all of the Sentinel Services guys to kill themselves, you're like, okay, so this is kind of what was missing from the show. Not forced suicide, but this level of kind of raising the stakes and the excitement and the way that the story was advancing. I was very entertained by that. Yes.
However, but why did she need them to get there to do all that? Because it seems like she could have done that all by herself.
Yeah, I don't quite know why she needed the help, but I think it's a proximity thing. I think they were trying to explain the way that her power
Yeah,
works.
but she was by the gate.
Yeah.
Like nobody. It seemed weird except for making the extraction happen.
I think she probably was hoping that they would just kind of offer to help her. Like,
But
like
she
being
seemed that
friends
she
with
could
them.
handle it, So then I'm kind of
I don't
like,
know.
why'd she need the help? But she clearly was able to do a lot more than we thought.
She also, did they mention that she'd lost some sisters or no?
I don't know that they mentioned that.
She,
Okay.
she just said family. I don't think
Yeah.
she mentioned anything specific because the like flashbacky thing where it's the courthouse and the guy, when she's getting that power suggestion, then it was interesting because she reads other people's minds, but this was somebody else who had powers pushing on her, so that was probably her sister.
I think I'm just getting stuff confused with the comic books because in the comic books there are at least 5.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
So are they all like literally?
And some of them die in the comic
And there's
books.
no connection to Emma Frost in the comic books.
No, they're
Yeah.
called the Cuckoos.
Right. And that's referenced, but sort of as an alias. And we know that at least that Esme's
Yeah.
last name is Frost. So
Could
Right.
they combine?
Yeah, they
I think
have
that
the
they probably-
same first names in the comic books.
Okay.
But in the comic books, they don't all make it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe some of them died, and so she wanted more help.
Right.
Okay.
She didn't want to lose any more.
But
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's added sort of a more tangible because the biggest problem I've had with the show is I'm not worried about Sentinel services. They're not a good
Yeah,
villain.
they're
Like
lame.
actual Sentinels are way more interesting.
I
And even those
know.
I've never been a fan of. But so to have sort of other superpowered people involved, the evil scientist, the dad from Raising Hope, like
I know.
I'm just like I can't
know.
buy you. You're the dad from Raising Hope.
I know.
And also like why Andy and Lauren's parents thought like we're gonna go talk to Agent what's his name?
I can't believe they want to go to Mexico and just leave everyone.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
out, yeah.
Yeah, it's like we're out. So
Like they're the most useless people there.
I continue to feel that the show would be better if they
like
weren't
they
on
were
it.
like, thanks for teaching the kids like math and stuff.
Yeah, but
it's
now
like,
you're out, yeah.
it's like they're useless.
Yeah. But hey, at least Lauren got to see Wes again because we were all
She was
asking
so
for that.
excited.
Just so excited.
Oh, now that was you're now the coolest dad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that
That's
would
a
have been
little bit like-
that would have been the isolated line if
Yeah.
we had been doing the show that week.
But he's an interesting character, Wes, in that way of having a security. So I mean, he's not. I like that his.
No, I
character
mean his
came
power
back.
is useful, at which a number of the characters on the show, their powers aren't particularly useful. I'm still hoping that it didn't happen, but it seems like Sonya is really dead, and that's one of
Yeah.
the characters I like the most. I could put together a list of people that I would like to have seen die instead of her.
She's done.
Both of the
I think
Struckers.
she's done.
always
Struckers,
like a
for sure.
cameo on
Yeah.
shows. That actress, she'll
Yeah.
like come on for like 6 episodes.
And
they
she's
kick
like, all right,
her
I'm
off.
good. Yeah, I get to renew my.
She's just building that resume.
Well, she's just
But it made
she's
it a
renewing
good-
her SAG dental coverage. She's
It
like,
made
I
it a
did
good
6 episodes.
shocking death though, because
Yeah,
then you were
it
like,
was
wait,
shocking.
her? What?
Yeah. And I like what we've seen in terms of Andy and Lauren using their power together, and
Yeah.
then conveniently Andy gets bumped on the head, so he can't. But
Darn.
I know, but it's like, all right, well, if in the next Monday it's a 2-hour season finale, and as
Really?
we mentioned earlier,
Yep.
yeah, I said that earlier. It's like you have to watch 2 hours of it.
well, we won't have time to do that because we'll be here on the air, so we won't get to catch all 2 hours of it.
Well, if East
No,
Coast-
because it's
Was-
the East Coast
We
feed.
get the East Coast
it
feed.
ends at 10
Oh.
Eastern, 7 Pacific. So we would just have to be
don't
here
know
at
if
5.
that's right.
I don't know if I can get here at 5.
I need
in all
Miss
honesty,
Strucker
Look,
here to do the
whether
math for
whether
me.
we talk about it next week or the week after, we still have to talk about it. So.
And then we can start diving into Shield because
I know, I
all
do.
there's gonna have
We're
left.
only going to have S.H.I.E.L.D. So once S.H.I.E.L.D. is the only show on the air, I have to watch it. I have to make the time. I'm planning to make the time. But
I'm really getting into it. Have you seen much
I
of
was
the
able
new
to catch
season?
up. I didn't. I'm not totally caught up, but I was able to watch a bit
These
while
hoes.
visiting family because they recorded it. I don't watch live TV. I watch it here, so I have to
Yeah,
get here.
yeah.
But it was nice to catch up a bit with family because they watch it as well. So that was
It's
cool.
getting good.
Yeah.
And we're
good.
about 5 episodes in, I think, on S.H.I.E.L.D.
6.
6. All right, so
think I gotta
it's
see at
exactly
least-
it's exactly 20
Okay.
episodes that I have to watch. So once it gets to 22,
Have
that's
to watch the way you say that.
I need to watch. I want to watch.
Get to
That's
watch.
it.
Yeah, and the fact that you told me that Ghost Rider comes back at the end of last season.
Yeah.
Privileged to watch.
Yeah, it'll be a privilege to watch, and we'll be able to talk about it. And also, by the way, there is the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show, which I believe is Sundays here in AfterBuzz. The Gifted, Sundays on AfterBuzz. And I think Runaways is also Sundays.
Runaways
No,
Yeah.
Runaways is on Tuesdays.
All right, that's what I meant. Tony B. Dead in the booth at Tony B. DED.
And they're going to be covering also 2 episodes tomorrow with a special guest, so stay tuned.
Ooh.
Do you
Who's
know who the
that,
special
guys?
guest is, or you don't want to say?
It rhymes with Sictor.
Oh, the guy! Wow, that's actually that's a good get. I mean, I'm more of a Ryan Sands guy because he did our show, but good for them. Good for them that they.
Did you guys know Molly came in?
No, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
I met Allegra Acosta as
Yeah.
well. She was fantastic.
Ye-
You can also check out that interview. as
Okay, so
well.
you didn't try and get her for this show, Anthony. You work for all these shows, I know, but you could try and help us out. And we would have loved to have talked to Molly, but should I be yelling at Jeff?
I mean, I can help you out too. I just I don't want to step on anyone's toes for their
You-
shows because it's your show technically. I just
What, do you think I don't want guests from the shows that we cover? We'd
Well,
love
we
to.
can still get people and talk about like post the
Yeah,
season.
well,
Now
it'd be
be
great.
like, how
It'd
was
be
that
great.
finale?
I know. Now I have to reach out. You know who I'm going to try and get for next week? The dinosaur. I hope that he's able to, or she's able to.
I'm
She-
surprised you didn't get Lockjaw a few months ago.
Oh, don't think I didn't try.
You wouldn't fit in the studio.
I tried to get Black Bolt. I tried to get Medusa. I tried to get Crystal. Anyway, but that's all right. I don't think they wanted to do press for that show. Anyway, so looking forward to these 2 season finales that we're going to have after tonight, and I've been very happy with Runaways and The Gifted. It's growing on me, and yes, ZSB Lou points out they've added the Purifiers too, so they're definitely, it's his kind of episode. So we're doing, I don't know, they're heading in the right direction. The idea that there was going to be a season 2, I think 6 weeks ago, I was like, but what's going to happen? Now you're like, all right, at least they're dealing in the universe. They're talking about the X-Men. They're talking about Magneto. There's things that are being referenced. So we'll see. And this idea that Polaris is stronger because of the baby, because they're all teaming up.
That was cool.
That was kind of an interesting thing that
Well, it's-
apparently Michael didn't buy.
No,
But,
because like literally a woman's body changes and adjusts and hormones because of a baby. So why not your powers adjust and change?
Exactly.
I just don't see her as a mother.
Oh well,
I mean, not
that's
a good,
different.
not a
yeah,
good one.
Yeah,
I just don't see her as a mother.
she's
Wow.
not very mommy-like.
No, you
but
don't-
I thought that was a cool concept that the powers
It's an
could
interesting,
change.
yeah, it is an
I buy
interesting
it.
concept.
Yeah.
The idea that the hounds are sort of being paired up to amplify their powers.
That was kind of
And
cool.
of course, Team Fenris, Lauren and Andy. So it's a lot
And
of
he's
stuff.
drawing a wolf too. Someone pointed out in the chat.
Oh, I didn't.
His drawing was a wolf.
was a wolf. So you see there, and Fenris, a
Mm-hmm.
wolf. So you see, there's a lot to look forward to in the next week. Michael, our final thought. You've come around a little bit on The Gifted, right?
It's the best it's ever been.
Right. So does it feel like a chore to have to watch it? Because for me, it didn't. I was really looking forward to watching Runaways. I'm like, oh, let me get The Gifted out of the way. But I did enjoy the last couple episodes.
I think Esme and her sisters have made it
Slightly better is what you're trying to say.
It's made it better.
It's very difficult for you to say, but it made it slightly better.
There's just so many. It's just hard to compare that show
That's fair.
to some of the other shows we have that are just
Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D..
masterpieces.
Yeah.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's it
ebbs and flows.
Its way, but I'm really liking right now. The first few episodes I was like, I don't know, but I'm really liking it.
All right. Well, we'll talk lots more about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a couple weeks when it's the only Marvel show on. But we have Runaways and, of course, The Gifted. Finales are the Gifted finale is 1 week from tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. 7 Central. They always get to have their time called out, 7 Central. And the Runaways would be tonight at midnight. I'm going to be up feeding my daughter a bottle, so I'll probably just watch it tonight and just be
Tweet
excited.
ya.
And I'll share my thoughts online if you want to follow me on Twitter at Christian DMZ. Thanks everybody for joining us in the chat. And yes, DSB Lou, we talked about earlier. Legion will be back in April. We don't know the exact date, but it's going to be back very soon for season 2. And thanks everybody in the chat, and thanks to Michael and Kari. Michael, where can people find you?
You can find me at Michael X Shirley on Twitter and Instagram.
And Kari.
And you guys can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's Karidlane.
All right, thanks again to everybody. Thanks to Anthony, Tony in the booth, at Tony BDED. We will see you all next week. Excelsior!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.